So I was late, and producer Stead and Rob are just having a conversation. I jump in thinking like we're recording, and we're actually not.
I had
Can't make
myself
that.
muted because I had to curb my laughter.
You can't make that stuff up. I apologize. We're getting a late start because I had some technical issues. And I come in and Rob and Stead are just shooting the breeze like you wouldn't believe. And I thought we were recording a podcast, and I came in apologizing and all that stuff. And then they're like, we're actually not recording. Anyway, if you can see my face and hear my voice, you know it is time once again for the worst 120 minutes or so in all of sports broadcasting. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is time once again for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I am joined, as I am every week, by my faithful partner in all things podcasting, producer Stead. How goes it?
That's going pretty good. Good weekend. Good weekend of sports. And today was pretty interesting too with Champions League. There was quite a few storylines coming on there. So it's looking like the groups are taking shape, but there's definitely a couple of groups that are clearly, gonna have some drama going down.
The funny thing was, going into today, the groups that played A, B, C, and D, those first four groups, all of them were on the same points going in. The leaders were on 6, the next two teams were on 3, and then the trail team was on 0.
Mm.
It ended up like that today, but it was interesting going into that. That was how it looked.
Yeah, I think the shocking thing today, though, too, is just that if you look at, let me just bring up the groups really quickly. I was looking at Marseille just putting a thumping on Sporting Lisboa. Granted, they had a red card, but 4-1 is quite the score. And then when you look at the standings, Marseille's in last place. So, but that group is a lot. It's pretty level there. It's pretty level. So yeah, absolutely. Crazy red card goalkeeper outside the box. But if you look at the teams there, you have basically the champions of Portugal, but then you have third place Tottenham. You have the team that won the Europa League. And then of course any team that's not PSG from the French league is going to be like a toss up there anyway. So you're looking at 3 teams in, and there's only 3 points separating first and last. Group D is going to be interesting. It'll be. I mean, I'm kind of pulling for Frankfurt, considering that's the Europa League squad that was able to get in there. But it'll be. I think that's going to be the group to watch.
Oh, how about Napoli?
Thumping Ajax, humbling Ajax
with the hammer.
Yeah, humbling. I
mean, that thing. I think when I stopped paying attention, it was 147 to nothing.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be. I mean, putting in 6. Yeah, and and also the funny thing is, they put in 5 of the 6 before the red card happened. So it's not like you can say anything about the red card. When the red card this time? Yeah.
Where Marseille, like they put 1 or 2 in before that red card,
right?
And there was a whole lot that went on. There was a foul that I thought deserved a red card. The game was played behind closed doors.
Mm.
There was a lot of interesting stuff in that one.
Yeah, well, Marseille, their fans are they've lost their minds. I mean, they've truly lost their minds. It's
well, they weren't even there today.
Well, yeah, because of that. I mean, when you're shooting fireworks at the other team, at the other team's fans, that's crossing the line. I think you're crossing the line. Yeah, I love a rowdy fan base, but look, I'm sorry, the days of the old days of the 80s, and that's just not there anymore. You can't do that anymore. I'm sorry, you just can't. And there's too many cameras. There's too many things. It's just There's too much money. You just can't do that anymore. Sorry, Marseille, you can't shoot fireworks at the opposing team anymore.
Yves the bartender is waiting in the wings, and he's going to join us in a little bit. But before we get there, there's at least one or two things I want to talk about. First and foremost, Arsenal, North London derby this weekend. They got it in.
You got it in. They did. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Spurs were totally outclassed. Spurs made two really bad mistakes. They really made some bad errors, but had those errors not been made, Spurs still wouldn't have won that game. They wouldn't have won that game. And it was very obvious to me that Arsenal were the better team that day. Now, the hard part is, a Spurs perspective, you can honestly say that there was not. Spurs still have the two best players in the field. They still do. They still do. And they were dangerous at times. But Arsenal's just playing well as a team. Yeah, Rob, you said, they're playing well. They're together. They're a unit. You see how well they're working together. They also look like the plan going into games is just improved. They seem like they've done their fair share of scouting of the opponent. They know what the opponent does well and try to put systems in place in order to stop them. But I will say, Arsenal's best player is William Saliba. He's their best player. I was saying it's Gabriel Jesus all the time. It's Saliba. That guy is going to be the next Virgil van Dijk. He's that good. He is that good. And I just hope that they just give him his money. Arsenal, you got to have to write a lot of checks because they're circling right now. Looking at Martinelli, who's playing well. Of course, Saka is loved by Pep. Pay your players, but Saliba is looking to be a phenomenal center half. And he can, and Fabregas was talking about him over the weekend. Fabregas was like, he could be there for the next 15 years. And I happen to agree.
Hey, look, you brought him young. You brought him up. Now it's the point in time where the kid comes good. Pay him. Keep him.
Yep. Keep him. There's no reason. There's no reason not to.
There's no reason not to. But there's also Bukayo Saka looked good. The whole team. Arteta was the start of the game for me, and he wasn't even playing. But he set that team up right. Everything that went wrong in the game that they played against Manchester United went right for them.
That's a very good point.
In this game.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
And full credit to Arteta for saying, I made a couple of mistakes in the game against Manchester United. I'm not going to make them against Tottenham. And he didn't.
He didn't. You're right.
He didn't massively change the lineup. He didn't massively change his approach. But what he did do was give them those slight instructions.
Right.
Here's when to step. Here's when not to. Here's how to defend against that counter. Here's not to. He looked at that Manchester United game, learned, all right, here's how some teams are going to play us. And the next people up, unfortunately for Spurs, happen to be Spurs, and he got them.
Yeah, and also, we talked about this a lot last year, was who's your starting 11?
I think he knows.
I think he knows now. Yeah, I think he knows now. I think that, but also, you also have like your best 13. You know what I mean? You know who your backup defender is. It's going to be Tomiyasu or Ben White. I think they're going to rotate in that situation. And then, but you also have your winger. But you still have Kieran Tierney there as well. So you have your core players, but you have your solid bench guys. Yeah, ESR is going to be out for a while. He's injured, but he can come in, he can play,
all three positions in the midfield. He can play Odegaard's spot. He can play Saka's spot. He can play Martinelli's spot. He can come in there and give you really, really solid minutes. And he's a thick boy. He can take a lot of. He can take it. He can run you through. And Nketiah coming in for Jesus is nice, but Jesus is going to be hard pressed to come out again. He wants to play, and that's great. Give him his minutes, and that's what we need. But you just feel like now when he goes to the bench, you almost know what's going to happen tactically before it even happens. And that's actually quite comforting because we haven't seen that in 5 years. We haven't seen that.
But I would argue, based on form, performance, whatever metric you want to use, if you put Tomiyasu in before Ben White, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that may be an upgrade.
He's coming off an injury, so I don't want to say it yet. But if you give me Tomiyasu, who came in last year, and put him in there, yeah, it is an upgrade. Because, like it or not, I mean, Ben White, I still think he's probably a little bit better in central defense, whereas Tomiyasu is probably next to Saliba the only like full-on outright defender. That guy can defend anybody, absolutely anybody. And he's got a gas tank like I haven't seen. I mean, the guy just does not get tired. So that's all. This is very positive. All this is very positive. And us Arsenal fans are feeling really, for once, really feel like not only is top four a possibility, but it's also like you don't feel like you're going to go out there and embarrass yourselves and get drubbed. I don't see them having a string of 3 bad losses in a row where you lose to Wolves, Brighton, and a newly promoted team in back-to-back games where you get 3 out of those 9, or sorry, you get maybe 1 out of the 9 points because you lose 2 and you get a draw. That happened often the past 5 years. That's happened too much, and I don't feel like that's going to happen this year.
If you get 1, that's understandable.
Exactly, but they were getting 3.
It's a multiple.
Right.
It's a multiple.
Right. I mean, last year they lost to Wolves, and I think it was Brighton, and then somebody else. And you're like, these are guys that are like in 15th and 12th and 8th place. Like, you shouldn't be losing 3 in a row to these types of teams. But I only have one last thing to say to Arsenal fans out there. Get over Granit Xhaka's mistake that he made all those years ago. Get over it. I am so tired of hearing an Arsenal fan talk about the game where he took the shirt off and he flipped the bird, he was angry. He's a human being. I've never been one that's been totally on board with Granit Xhaka. I've always been a little wishy-washy about him. But when he plays well, I'm going to acknowledge that he plays well and say I'm glad he's on the squad. He's been Arsenal's leader throughout this year. He's been the leader. Yes, Odegaard's the captain. Granit Xhaka is the leader. After they scored their first goal, he got all the guys on the field together, and you see he's talking to them. He's basically, I don't know what he was saying, but from the way they broke up afterwards, he was basically saying, it's great. We scored a goal. We still got 60 minutes of game left to play. Let's put these guys away. Let's keep the pressure on. And then he ends up getting a late goal. But he's showing his leadership. And like Arteta was right again, and all of us idiot fans were wrong. And if you're an Arsenal fan and you are angry that Granit Xhaka is on the squad and wish he would have went to Roma so you could spend another 50 million pounds on a player that won't perform quite as well as he's been performing, get over it. Granit Xhaka, if I have to wear a Granit Xhaka jersey to get Arsenal fans to shut up about it, I will. I am so tired of it. Get over it. Applaud the guy who's on the squad. He's a solid player. And I'm thankful that he's showing the form that he has on international duty for the Gunners, because he's doing it now.
I mean, every once in a while, guys make mistakes.
Yeah, he made a mistake. And he owned it. And he apologized. And then he was voted man of the match. He puts out a post to thank the fans for supporting him. The guy's growing. He's growing up. It's growing up. He's in his early 30s. Like, come on, man.
I think I'm with you. I think it's time to forgive him.
Absolutely. I forgave him last year.
But now it's definitely time for them to forgive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So,
all right,
Arsenal, keep it up. Spurs, don't worry about it. You guys are still going to probably finish ahead of Arsenal, so don't worry about it. So I still feel that
I'm
way.
not 100% sure on that, but just in order to keep trains running on time, we're gonna bring on our newest guy, Yves the bartender. Yves, how you doing this evening?
Hi everyone, how are you guys doing today?
I'm glad to talk to you. Yves, what is the cocktail of the night? Now, Stead, I am gonna say, Yves made me that Rob Roy
Yeah.
the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I was down there with him, and he made me that Rob. Man, that thing was good. So,
Okay.
I mean, we gotta
Thank you,
try
thank you.
that. I mean, that one was on point. So if that's the first one that he's coming with, I want to hear what he comes up with tonight. So,
Absolutely.
Yves, what is the cocktail of this evening?
Okay, guys, well, tonight I'll bring you the Tom Collins. Tom Collins is a drink with a very interesting history because the earliest mention that you find on something written is a mixologist book that was published in England, and it was in the 1840s, something like that. And however, the story that was published there. It was this guy named John Collins that went to a bar and asked for this kind of drink, and then they name him like he chose the name. However, some research afterwards showed that there were earlier mentions in America. So it kind of contradicted a little bit the story. So since then, it hasn't been a way to prove the real story of the drink. So everybody claims it. It's mine. No, it's mine. What is interesting about this drink is that it's made of three equal parts of three basic ingredients. The first is the base liquor. In the case of the Tom Collins, is gin. Then is a third of lemon sour mix, and then a third of the glass is just Seven Up or Sprite. I'm not making publicity to brands here, and just put some garnishes, orange and cherry, and that's it. It's a very refreshing drink. It's really good with pretty much anything, like in a warm afternoon or in a kind of not so warm afternoon as well. It is a very easy to drink cocktail, and it has several variations for people that don't like drink. For example, the John Collins, which is made with bourbon instead of gin, the Jim Collins, which is with Scotch, and the Vodka Collins. Well, the name says everything. So yeah, and this is a very easy to make cocktail. Anybody can make it. You just need a couple of glasses, and that's about it.
All right, so the cocktail this evening is the Tom Collins.
I'm gonna put together a document, put together a list so I know which beverages I gotta order, for the Too Many
Absolutely,
Guys soccer
absolutely.
show.
Yeah, so we had the first a couple of weeks ago when we were on, we had the Rob Roy, as I was telling Stead, had that with you, and that was absolutely amazing. Stead, I'm gonna get you down so that you can hang out with Yves and get the Tom Collins, which will be our drink of the week this week,
Okay.
and try that one because that just sounds absolutely amazing. All right,
Absolutely, guys. And the next time I'm gonna bring my smoker for the Rob Roy because I didn't bring my smoker that day. When smoking it's gonna be way better.
Oh wow.
I mean,
All right,
it was
word.
good. It was good just on general principle. Not going to complain about it a day a week and twice on Sunday. All right, Yves. Barca, not the greatest performance against Vallecano this weekend in La Liga, and
No.
definitely not the best performance against Inter today in the loss, which leaves them third out of four teams in that group.
Yeah.
The good news is tied with Real Madrid, which is, if you're not ahead of them, you want to be tied with them in La Liga. Third in the group in Champions League. Let's start with La Liga first. Are you happy with the league position? How is that looking for you? Is this just a bad performance by them?
Yes. So in general, the team is struggling, and you can tell they're struggling a lot, trying to find like the new identity, trying to find the new connections between the old players and the new players. You have seen that Xavi has tried a lot of the new players, and and I personally don't agree with Bellerin's purchase. And look, he got injured. I mean, he would have been great in the moment that when he started in Arsenal. That was a great version of him. But I think that is a little bit too far down his career to be playing for Barcelona, especially considering the right back has been a position so difficult to fill in the last years. With when Dani Alves left, and then he came back, and even himself wasn't. I mean, the years pass. You get older. Um, Definitely Lewandowski saved the game there, and he had a good connection with Ansu Fati. I think that something can be exploited from there. I think that Lewandowski can be a good player to learn from for Ansu Fati and for some other of the forwards in Barcelona, especially that hunger for the goal. He will shoot from whatever position for whatever way he can. He will try to get a shot in, and in most cases they're gonna go in. It's a numbers game. If you don't shoot, you don't get in. And Barcelona was a little too stuck in the trying to make the goal right there, right next to the goalie. You know what I mean? Like trying to make play, boom, right inside of the small area, trying to kick it there. And that's not possible in soccer these days. You've seen smaller teams or teams with less money. You see them stop big teams just with the defensive game. And it's just, yeah, go ahead.
No, so why hasn't the league form necessarily translated to the Champions League? We see them at the top of La Liga, but you're in the transfer places to the Europa League right now, in third place after this loss to Inter. That being said, you do have 2 games against Victoria Pilsen, the bottom team in that particular group.
Yeah, absolutely. We will go back to the same subject that we were talking 2 weeks ago. It is a thing. It's a completely different thing to play in La Liga, to play in the Champions League. Champions League is the top teams of all the other leagues, and you're always gonna find a difficult match. However, in La Liga, they might not be as competitive. And you saw Barcelona suffering against Mallorca. Mallorca right now is like the 17th in the table, something like that. And that is very telling on the current situation of the team that is still struggling to find that grace, that connection, that magic.
So as I look at the La Liga table right now, Stead, Yves, I'm gonna be real honest. I see Athletic Bilbao up there in third place. I'm extremely happy with that. The Basque
Me too,
Club,
absolutely.
I love their model. They are Basque born and bred. They will only sign Basque players. They sell them then when they want to. We've seen them fluctuate in between European places and almost relegation. Yves, do they have the staying power to stay up there in European competition for the remainder of the season?
Well, right now Bilbao has a couple of good players, the brothers. They've been doing an amazing campaign. Last season they did great too, and I think that the hunger of these new players is gonna definitely makes a difference in the field, and especially in the growth of the club. But I agree. I love seeing things that you normally don't see out there. I love seeing them out there. I love seeing them giving the fight against the main clubs. And yeah, definitely, I think that it's a bright future for them. I think that they're doing the right moves. They're incentivizing the right players, and eventually it's gonna pay off. They're betting on the next generation always, and that's the game here.
All right. And I'm going to move on to your bailiwick, which was in Colombia in a second. We got a tech on Hetafe. We thought they were just for G. It's Coach G's favorite team, Hetafe. for a variety of reasons. They're struggling down in 14th. At least they're not in the relegation zone. We thought they were good after a 2-0 win over Osasuna prior to the international break, but they come back and they lose to Valladolid 3-2 on the weekend. Yves, can they stay up? That's all we care about.
Oof, that's a tough question. That's a very tough question.
I know they are like the third team in any city they're in.
Yep. Yep. It's a difficult question because a lot can change. And the more games you get into the Liga and when you start accumulating players that are injured, it becomes a little too complicated to maintain. But I think that the mentality is important. So if they can keep the energy up, at least there can be something done. La Liga seems to be changing this year, particularly, and it's interesting. It gets interesting, and I hope that they keep it interesting because at the end, the things with the teams with their big budgets end up just suffocating the ones that are trying to like do the fight behind. And I just hope this year is not the case. I hope this year it gets interesting.
So speaking of Getafe, they host Real Madrid on Saturday afternoon, 3:00. So if you're not watching NCAA football at that time, tune in. ESPN Plus will have Getafe and Real Madrid. Not the most intriguing slate of games that I'm looking at. Getafe, Real Madrid at 3 p.m. on Saturday. I've also got Sevilla and at the aforementioned Atletico Bilbao at 12:30 on Saturday. Any other games on the slate that stick out to you as ones that we should watch? Of course, Barcelona has a late game on Sunday during primetime football against Celta Vigo. But
yeah, that is going to be an interesting game to watch too. I will watch also the Real Valladolid, Real Betis. Betis is up there also in the board, and it will be interesting to see it as an exercise to kind of analyze how it is going to be the behavior or if the momentum is going to last. Because these teams that are under, they play with passion. They try not to be in the bottom parts of the table.
So let's go to your real heart. Colombia. They are not going to the World Cup this year. We know that the golden generation that was, you and I talked about this at length a couple of days ago. The age of James Rodriguez at his peak, Radamel Falcao, Cuadrado, that's gone. They are rebuilding.
Absolutely. So in the first game with Colombia, they went with James and friends, as we have come to call them in Colombia. Just James and friends. That's the thing that they were playing, and you saw the difference. It was a very slow team. It was struggling against Guatemala in the first half. The second half, they made a couple of changes for some of the youngsters. They get Falcao to the bench. They get James to the bench. And suddenly it was a different team. Suddenly you saw the hunger, you saw the beautiful passing, you saw the fast movements, you saw the correct marcation. It was a really different team. And this is one of the things that I always say about the Colombian soccer players is that sometimes it feels that once they get the big contract, they kind of stop caring a little bit about the national team. And that hurts because the national team is the one that is giving exposition to the Colombian soccer players.
All right. So on last Tuesday, they go up to San Francisco and they beat Mexico 3-2.
Yep.
Who saw that one coming?
I honestly knew that we had the means to win. And but again, if you saw the first half, it was the same circumstances. James and friends, and then second half, let's get some of the youngsters, and the youngsters did it. They did have the hunger. They did go after it. They fought for every ball. They run every little thing. They defended everything. They moved in blocks. When the first in the first half, it was James and friends. The middle field was broken in half. They didn't have like good passes out to the attack, and James literally had to come down to their own field to start trying to create something. But it was too behind. It was impossible to reach the strikers.
Luis Diaz has come onto the scene at Liverpool and been an absolute revelation. How do you all feel about him as the centerpiece of your team moving forward?
That's definitely a role that everybody has seen Luis Diaz capable of filling up. I really hope that he sticks in Liverpool. I always said it. The British League is the best one to be, like the Premier League is the best one to be in. It's the most competitive one, and you learn a lot. And it's a really fast soccer. It's really interesting soccer. So everybody's happy. Everybody's stoked about him. I really, really hope that can keep up, that he can defeat the Colombian soccer player mentality once he starts becoming even bigger. And especially let's hope that no injuries come in his way, because with him on the head and all the new kids in the back that are hunger, that want to bring glory to the country once again, that's what we need.
All right, my brother, we really appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit of La Liga, a little bit of Colombian soccer, and giving us the cocktail of the week. Yves, will get you back in a little bit. Thank you very much for coming on and joining us this week.
No, thank you guys for having me, and enjoy.
Instead, I'm going to tell you, there can be worse things to build a team around than Luis Diaz.
Agreed. Absolutely. Agreed.
I actually do want them to do well. Colombia is one of those teams, and Rob can disagree with me as much as he wants. I know how Peru oriented he is. And I'm probably pretty sure that if it doesn't come at the expense of Peru qualifying, he'd be okay with Colombia being there. It's interesting when they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Yves last week in person about that team in 2010 that went to the quarterfinals with Radamel Falcao, with James Rodriguez, with Juan Cuadrado. That team, when they were what they were, and just how exciting they were. And then you have to look back to the 96 team, the ones that suffered the own goal and all that, and to see another Colombian team that we had that much excitement for. And it's a shame because there's a lot there. Just haven't always been able to get it.
Yeah, it's almost like, it reeks of what we've seen from African teams over the decades, where they could be right there. And I would say though that them playing in CONMEBOL would give them a bit of advantage, because CONMEBOL games are just going to be way more competitive. I mean, there's fewer teams, they're all relatively competitive, and they just beat up on each other week in, week out. And so I think that,
I mean, when
it's just one of those things, they need to tighten a few screws, and then maybe they could get beyond that hump and actually get to semifinal or win a Copa America. Chile was able to win a Copa America. So if they could get in there and maybe win one of those, I think that would be great.
I think it's about time that they won one. We saw what it took in Chile's golden generation You had to have
1-2.
Alexis Sanchez,
Mhm.
uh,
Nacho Vidal,
and Vidal to get that. I don't want to say that Colombia didn't have those world-class players. James made the move a little early to Real Madrid on strength of that World Cup, and that didn't pan out. Radamel Falcao, the injuries.
Yeah, the injuries really got him. Yeah, because he looked really good in the club game as well. I mean, he was strong. I mean, you didn't see the same level of performance from James Rodriguez, and sadly, he's buried in Greece now. So
he's buried in Greece. But when I look at Luis Diaz, I see a player where you can build a competitive national team around this guy. And I understand there are the limitations that you have with any national team. Like, you can't always predict who you're going to get in and who's not. But you can really build a quality national team. Kind of like Wales did with Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale.
Right.
Everything is ostensibly going to be in pursuit of get Luis Diaz the ball, get him in a position where he can create something, and then capitalize on him when he does it.
Right.
And that is a phenomenal player. And, James Rodriguez is still serviceable. Juan Cuadrado,
he's solid.
He's still solid. Probably a little bit underrated as the guy that kind of flew under the radar for this year, but it has been a key contributor for Juventus for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Still a solid player.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about that '94 team, with Freddie Rincon and Faustino Esprilla, and that squad was deep. Man, they had some players. It's a shame that they went out that way because that team was good.
You also look at for those of you, and Stead included, who have not watched Two Escobars on ESPN.
I've seen Two Escobars. Seen it twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full stop. Subject matter excluded. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen. How it was written, how it was filmed, how it was cast. Just that story and the way the documentarians set that up. It is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. Subject matter excluded. To the point where 2/3 of it are in Spanish and subtitled for those of us who don't speak.
Right.
And you can actually watch it and just enjoy, even with the subtitles. I said I knew Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was a great film. When I stopped paying attention to subtitles.
Agreed. I did the same thing. Yeah.
I stopped paying attention to subtitles. Like, I would read them to see what was going on, but watched how Two Escobars was set up. One of the best documentaries of any sort that I've ever seen, going through the Colombian football team and the narco football from the 80s up to 94. It is a severely unfortunate story. And I hate that is and I really don't want to say but a legacy for Colombian football that they have to deal with, that the 94 team was so good as a result of the input of those individuals. And so that makes it hard. But yeah, when you talk about Freddie Rincon and
Valderrama was on
Valderrama,
Faustino Esprilla that guy was a great player. Great player.
Rene Higuita.
Yeah.
I mean, just the number of players that they had and the stuff that they had to deal with, and when you hear what it was that they had, I would have challenged anybody to go out and perform at any level when confronted with the situations that they had to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely awful. And so I do want Colombia to be successful because I want them to get rid of that legacy in particular.
Absolutely.
To be able to say, like, we competed. 2010 was a start. Or what was, I'm sorry, not 2010, 2014 was the term. 2020, not necessarily what they would have hoped for. Not qualifying for this one, but I suspect that there's a club there that can be decent in the future. All right,
Absolutely.
well, we've got probably one of the happiest individuals on the face of the planet right now, waiting in the wing. I know he's come to give me my medicine, and I'm gonna take it because I called him on Sunday and congratulated him. Right on cue. Larry, the insurance guy, how goes it, my good friend?
What's going on, gentlemen? How we doing tonight?
We are doing all right. Just enjoying talking a little bit of football on a Tuesday.
It's always a good time to talk about football.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, mixed bag for you on Sunday. Of course, Man City with the 6-3 victory over Manchester United in the derby. But then again, you have to abide by your Steelers not necessarily winning.
It's going to be a rough year for the Steelers. It is what it is.
Put out of my pick'em league too. I can't believe I picked them. Like,
Oh, I wouldn't. I mean, it's too late. I'm sure it's too
they're
late
playing
now.
the Jets. They're playing the Jets. The Jets are terrible. They're always terrible.
Yeah.
You know what
The
this
switch
is?
over to Pickett, I think, is what they kind of needed. Again, I don't think they're going to do anything, but I think it's
yeah, well,
it's a spark they kind of needed to at least be a little bit competitive. And
Well,
I'm interested to see what he can do.
Yeah, I am too. But also, I'm also going, like, you all know what Mr. Trubisky is a long time ago. So
yeah, I don't know why they kept him in as long as he did. Again, I think it's the play calling as much as it is Trubisky. But
So, Larry, I before we get into soccer stuff, I know you now have season tickets out at Heinz Field.
Acrisure Stadium. Come on, not Heinz Field anymore.
That's true, yeah.
I'm gonna call it what it was built. Acupressure.com Stadium, whatever the heck they call it now. What's the turnaround on that? Do you drive out for the game and then come back to New Jersey?
Well, we plan on going to like 1 or 2 games a year. I've already sold all the tickets. We have family out there, so you know, the one game we went to the Patriots game and stayed at my aunt and uncle's house. It's me and my dad and my buddy, so he got to see his sister, and it was, you know, next time I'm bringing my son out there and my wife, so we'll stay actually in Pittsburgh at some cousin's house. He'll get to hang out with some cousins. I'll get to see my cousins, so it works out. It's perfect. It really is.
Do you go to the original when you're in Pittsburgh?
What's that?
Dog? Do you go to the original for a hot dog when you're in Pittsburgh? Or do you go to Primanti Brothers?
I'm a Primanti Brothers kind of guy. I know it's, you know, I can't say that I love them. It's more of a novelty kind of thing out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just kind of hop around, stuff our faces, and, you know, I wouldn't say that they're really, I mean, they're known for that sandwich, but it's not like, I can't say that I love the sandwich. Like,
okay, thank you for saying that, because I tried one. I was like, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sandwich, you know, but it's you know, it's one of those, again, those novelty things.
Yeah, I was like,
we did
okay.
one time when I was out there, and I have not been out to Pittsburgh in I don't know how long, but we did the original for hot dogs at like 3 o'clock in the morning after the club let out. And we did Permanente Brothers slate. And it sort of set me up for it. Now I know, every city has that place that you go to after the club lets out about 3 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Bench Chili Bowl in DC.
Mhm.
Pat's and Gino's in Philly, the original and Permanente Brothers. And then you realize like 3 days later, that food weren't that good.
No. No. It's the experience, it's the novelty of it, it's the I guarantee we all have much better cheesesteak places than Pat's and Gino's, but you're there. If you have relatives or someone coming in, we gotta do this.
Yeah, my sister took me there in Philly. Yep, my sister lives in Philly. It's same thing. Yeah.
God bless them. Gyms on South burnt
Maybe
down.
that was my problem because I had one and it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I hadn't even had a beer yet. So I was like, wow, this is why all the fuss is about.
Can't.
My timing must have just been terrible.
Yeah, you need it after a couple beers, but 3 o'clock in the morning, that's just like you're asking for trouble. That heavy thing at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially at our ages, we're not 21, 22.
No. No.
21, 22, my digestive system could have handled cardboard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You went to Pat's,
those are the pizza
Gino's,
slices
and
that have
Jim's
Morgan.
all in the same night whenever you were there.
Yep.
And,
It's not happening like that anymore.
Nah.
I have learned. Larry, what do you say? 6-3 over United. It wasn't even that close. United came back and got 3. Like this was what you're looking at is the full fruition of Pep ball right now. He's got the players: Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland. It's got to be pretty to watch when it's got Ilkay Gundogan comes in.
That guy looks great. He looks so good.
But as a sub for Rodri, who's injured, I mean, it's got to be pretty to watch. It's got to be pretty to watch.
It's at that point now where I've been holding my breath for the last 3 weeks. There is no way that this continues the way that it. I hate this. I mean, if it does continue, this will be one of the great, and people will claim the money and all that stuff. But statistically, this has the makings for the greatest team season ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if it continues at this, even if it comes down 20%, 80% of what they're doing right now, 70%, they're going to shatter records.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shoe is going to fall or a drop, there's no way.
Well, something has to like Haaland scores every 14 touches in the ball. He scores a goal. Okay, that is absolutely insane. And that's not including the goals he's just a part of, because I believe he has 2 or 3 assists as well this season.
He had 2 in the game.
He had 2 in the game, yeah. So you're looking at a guy who's involved in a goal every 10 to 12 touches of the ball. He's someone scoring, 3 hat tricks in 8 games. The next closest one is Michael Owen, who did it in 45 games.
It was 48 games.
This is absolutely insane. And it's not so much that it's not Haaland scoring, because you got to remember, Pep even said this, Haaland can't do this without the people feeding him the right way.
Right.
So he's getting spoon-fed like I spoon-fed my son. And Mike, you've seen my son. It is not difficult to feed my son. And if you're holding the spoon out in front of him, he's just eating. I mean, he needs to do the Ezekiel Elliott and just keep feeding him, because God, the service he's getting is absolutely phenomenal. He's making Jack Grealish look good. And the fact that they are that game could have been 10-0. I feel like after United scored their first goal, City looked at the clock and said, well, there's no way they're going to draw. We just won't get a clean sheet anymore. And they seem to have packed it in. They were just kind of having a kickabout for the last 30 minutes of the game. And I mean, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch.
It kind of, real quick, it kind of shows you, like you're saying, the spoon feeding though. It kind of shows you that the difference between, and we all know the difference between like a Holland and a Sterling and a Jesus. Just watching Sterling with Chelsea now, or Jesus with Arsenal, and he is doing, Jesus especially,
he's playing very well,
extremely well. But he's still making, he's still missing those ones where you're like, you just shake your head at, where Holland is finishing every single one of them. You know, and I'm not saying he's going to continue that, but that just shows you, like, those guys were set up from De Bruyne, from Foden, from Mahrez for the last 3 years, and they just didn't have the talent because Holland's just on another level. It's just, I mean, it's mind blowing whenever you look at the stats that compared to Messi's and Ronaldo's at his age, what he's doing is just, it's phenomenal. It really is.
I know that Kevin De Bruyne wasn't on the score sheet per se this weekend. How much did he want to go out and prove that he deserves a Premier League Player of the Month after he saw Marcus Rashford get one?
I don't really understand how that all panned out again.
Well, I mean, Rashford had a couple of goals, but the stat that baffles me, instead, and Larry, you can agree, you know, Kevin De Bruyne has never won Premier League Player of the Month.
Yeah, and that's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
that's absolutely insane because he's been the best player in the Premier League for the last 3 seasons, I'd say. He's been the best player in the Premier League.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now, I feel like he's got a point to prove when he's going out there and playing, but then his eyes have to light up when he's got all of Erling Haaland.
Well, I think he knows now that these feeds, these spoon-fed passes will be finished 95% of the time. Like, he's on pace again to blow the assist record out of the.
Yeah, it's 20 by Henry. And it's.
I think that De Bruyne, didn't he tie that a couple years ago?
I think so. He did. Yeah.
You know, and that might have been whenever Aguero was still scoring goals and he was doing that. You know, but. Yeah, I mean, but he also seems like that kind of player. You'll never know that he's trying to do that, other than maybe that's in his own mind because of the class act and quietness that he portrays to everybody. That he just goes out there and does his job. Like,
it's not even that he gets on the score sheet. He doesn't care. Like, he's like Jason Kidd. I'm perfectly fine, or not even Jason Kidd. Remember John Stockton?
Absolutely.
I don't need to score. I can score 5 points if I get 20 assists.
Yeah,
I had a great game. He doesn't need to score a single.
That's actually a really good comparison between the Malone and Stockton to Haaland and De Bruyne right now. It could be, you know, Stockton or De Bruyne could have his 9 to 11 goals, and Haaland could have God knows how many, and you know, but they'll both. I never would have imagined that Haaland's chemistry with the team would happen as quickly as
Agreed.
And I think this is testament to the quality of player that he actually is. We looked at him with Borussia Dortmund last year. Knew he was an effective player. But then he comes in and we see the physicality, we see the class, we see the finishing ability. He really is the finished article. And I'm sorry, Kylian Mbappe, he is the best under 25 player in the world right now. I challenge you to find me one who's better.
I think I was his finishing, but I was probably most impressed where that whole game was that pass that he had to Foden.
Dang, you stole it. I know it's your team, but I was like, I want to talk about that pass. I thought that was phenomenal. I thought it was because when you saw when he received the ball too, he looked. So you're looking at a guy whose sole purpose is to score goals, but as soon as he got that ball, he knew he was like, he's over there. And he put that ball, and it was perfect. I mean, anybody could have finished that and scored.
But this is Pep at his best.
Yeah.
This is what Pep trains his players.
I don't think
to
Pep
do.
could have even imagined it being the way that it is.
No, but like, I'm sorry, man. I mean, look, we got a bartender in the crew. That's how you get the cocktail right, man. It tastes absolutely phenomenal. And the cocktail that they have put together there is, I mean, it's hard to believe that they've dropped points before Arsenal did this year. It's kind of hard to believe that they're still, that they've had a couple of bumps in the road, because when you see them, like, I feel like, I don't think we've seen Arsenal at their best yet, but even if we do, it's still going to be way levels below what we saw this first half on Sunday. I mean, that was probably the best football I've seen in recent memory. Yeah.
All right, I want to put it on record because I know that Matt will come on, and as I offer platitudes, I want to make sure that I put this on record. It was a case of grown men versus boys. I will never argue that City right now are the finished product. Man United are that teenager, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're growing into this. I think in a couple of years, that situation might be different. Right now, you have 3 players on City's roster in Foden, De Bruyne, Holland, that just nobody else has, right? And I heard umpteen managers talk about we win games because we have players that nobody else does. Back in the day, they used to say that about George Best. Man United were winning games because they had George Best and nobody else did. The Patriots won Super Bowls because they have no Tom Brady and nobody else did. The Cavaliers won because they had LeBron James and nobody else did. Right? You got that in Holland, De Bruyne, and Foden right now. This I will say, though, Larry, we've heard rumblings they're going to break up the band. Pep Guardiola's talking about leaving in the next couple of years. You have Erling Haaland's father saying he sees him only playing about 2 or 3 seasons, which would coincide with the end of Pep's tenure there before he moves to Spain. Who knows what De Bruyne and Foden are going to do in their future if Barcelona or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich come and offer them. Can you just enjoy it now and hope that you guys win? Is there any trepidation of what it's going to look
There's really
like?
not much more you can do. Again, like we don't know what Pep's gonna do. If he stays, he's got another 2 years, and then he's gone. And it's one of those things you just have to be happy while it lasts and get as much as you possibly can. I did read something today that City's already looking to put together another deal for Haaland to prevent him from, Madrid coming in 2024 to pay the 200 million release clause. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Madrid's the only team that I think he would leave for. I mean, I don't see any other team. I think it's convenient to kind of like have the top tier of English football look like a stepping stone to an even bigger situation. But I mean, I don't see it with Juventus. I don't see it with PSG. I don't see it with Barcelona anymore. I don't. I think the only team where I see him possibly going is you can see a situation where, Mike, you've illustrated wonderfully the Real Madrid Galacticos mentality where they try to have the best 11 players in the world are all there. Maybe they try something crazy and have Haaland and Mbappe on the same squad or something like that. I could actually see them trying to do something like that. But outside of that, Haaland's dad is getting also some media attention that he hasn't received in quite a long time. And he's going to say anything he wants to right now because now's the time to do it. But this guy is so hot right now that there's no way he's not going to cool off. I think I'll put it that way. There's
no way he's not going to cool off. I mean, he has the opportunity to rewrite the record books.
Mhm.
There is something legendary about winning a Ballon d'Or and a Champions League at Real Madrid
Right.
that there are very few places. And Larry, no disrespect, Man City isn't one of them.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Where you can accomplish that and say, like, I can write my name in the history books next to players like Di Stefano. And Real Madrid is one of the places where you can do that. And if you are able to win a Ballon d'Or and you are able to win a Champions League at Real Madrid, I still think to a lot of players that means something. Now, I
He can
don't
do it at
disagree.
City.
He can do it at City.
I think he can do it at City. I do.
I mean, let's be honest. George Best wrote his name into history books at Manchester United, and at the time they'd won one Champions League. You can name all the players in Liverpool history. Steven Gerrard, I think, has what, 2?
No, he's one.
One
Mhm.
at Liverpool. Gerd Muller has the one at Bayern. Rob is going to tell me if I'm wrong, and it's 1 or 2. You can do it at other places and be all right. And I get the allure of playing in that white jersey, but it's not always it, right? If you say that, it's fine. My bigger question for Larry is, I remember 08-09. I remember what that was as a season for Manchester United as they went through it. I also remember it wasn't until about January, February, where I fully got to embrace the fun that was. What are you waiting on? How long is it going to take before you can feel comfortable and enjoying this City season for what it might be?
You know how I am, Mike. It's not until the last whistle of the Champions League is over. And every tournament that happens until they're holding the trophy or they're eliminated, I have no expectations. I have no,
It's going to be June 1st. They're going to have won the quadruple.
Yep.
And Larry's still going to be anxious, and I'm going to love him
I'm
for
going to be
it.
like, well, hold on. There's going to be some kind of VAR.
Yeah. In the short time I've known you, Larry, that's the answer I was expecting.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is,
if I was a
love
Real
Larry.
Madrid fan, then you've got all this history here, or really
Right.
anywhere else but City. But it's just like these last 5 years, they should have had something by now. So
the funny thing is, Larry,
That's right, Bayern Rob. Come in and suspend him in the semis.
yeah.
That boy Rob strikes again.
Instead, I'm gonna be real honest, and I'm gonna put Larry's business out there. Larry, when you know him, cockiest dude on the face of the planet. He's gonna let you know when his team has won, and he's gonna tell you all about it. So,
But
Larry
not until they've won, right?
you got it. Exactly.
No. But
I
even
put my
before
foot in my mouth way too many times.
But even before then, he would let you know. And so then he's coming on and being so self-effacing and like, I can't do this. And it's a little bit incongruous for me because I know deep inside what he really wants to say is, oh yeah, we're as good as we think. We're going to kick ass and take names.
Not coming out. It's not saying I don't feel that way, but I won't say it on camera.
He won't say it on camera because he doesn't want us to have the receipts. Oh, I do gotta say, I don't know if you all saw this. He posted it on the chat. We had the internal chat. Larry at his office watching with Ashton. Number 1, watching that USA game the other week with Ashton. Number 2, how big he has gotten since the last time I saw him, and he was an arm baby.
Yeah.
But man, that was an awesome one. how's he feeling about Man City and the U.S. men's national team?
He feels, honestly, he's kind of the same way that I am. Like he gets so pumped up about it. He's kind of confused about the United States team, the way that kind of we all are too, where some things don't make sense and you get excited and then you get let down and then you get excited and then you get let down. And City, I mean, he's just kind of going along for the ride with me. You know what I mean? He watches every single game. He analyzes every single game. You know, he knows more about it than I do. And it's crazy, but he also knows the already at his young age, the expectation and the heartbreak of Champions League. And so.
All right, my brother. Great to see you. Great to talk to you. Great as always.
Great time,
we'll
boys.
catch up with you.
We'll talk.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Instead, I ran over. I think I blew through a segment because I'm backed up. I've got Professor Matt and Bayern Rob waiting.
Yeah, we did. Rob's next.
All right, we're gonna do Rob.
Yeah, we'll do Rob, then Professor Matt. Yep. Unless Professor Matt just wants to pop in, we always, love him. Feel free to pop in if you want, Professor Matt, or you can wait out in the wings. It's up to you, brother.
Well, we've got this whole entire Eastern Bloc thing going on. Why not? Germany, the Eastern European nations, Liverpool, Bayern Munich. Why not? Gentlemen, good to see you as always.
Hello.
How we doing all?
All right. Kind of. All right. So let's start with Bayern Munich. Rob, after the international break, you had the loss to Augsburg before the international break. Then they come back. You thump Bayer Leverkusen. You thump Pilsen in the Champions League. Are they back?
You know what? If they beat Dortmund and it's Mac Dortmund, like I fully expect them to do so, they're back. And especially because when you're on loss this weekend. And then it do it again, and then Bayern could take the top spot in a week. So no, they're not fully back, but the international break does weird things. It did something weird to Union Berlin because now they lost, and then Bayern all of a sudden, even though like 95% of the squad got called up to international duty, it was almost like a big reset for them. They figured it out. So they're not fully back, but they're almost there. They need a good victory against Dortmund to really be back.
Matt, disappointing result on the weekend to Brighton, the draw, but Jurgen Klopp goes to 4-2-3-1, changes formations, subs. Albeit it's against the Huns, but how big was this 2-0 victory today?
Confidence building. And it's strange because when I saw the formation change, I said, even if we don't get a positive result, I'm in a way I'm almost happy because we did it by doing something else because we couldn't keep doing the same goddamn thing. I don't know what to make of this team, and I don't even know. I mean, we started out with the 4-2-3-1, and then at times it was a 4-4-2. Then when we were in defense, it was a 3-5-2 at times. It's like Bruce Lee said, it's be like water. But I didn't know what was going on half the time, and neither did Rangers. So nice bounce back. Good to see Trent defending, and I think the double pivot helps in that respect, knowing that he has two central defensive midfielders who can, take on some of those responsibilities. But, well, yet to be seen. Can we string 2 wins together? Arsenal's going to be a test over the weekend, so we'll see.
All right, Rob, clearly match of the weekend this weekend in the Bundesliga is Der Klassiker. 12:30. Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. For those of you in the Baltimore, Washington, and DC area, I strongly suggest that you go to Crossbar in Baltimore. Bayern Rob will be out in person. Last time I saw a Klassiker in person at Crossbar, there was a pig involved. I'm not 100% sure that will happen again, but every time we go out, weird stuff happens. Seriously, their Klassiker, this one has had title implications. Where do you see this one going?
I see Bayern scoring 3 goals. Dortmund maybe getting 1. The problem with Dortmund is just, look, they lost to Cologne, and Colone's a good team this year. But if you want to be a serious title contender, you cannot lose to Cologne. I'm sorry. There's Dortmund, is a squad that has major talent. Cologne is a squad that struggles to find a diamond in the rough somewhere locally, finds players cheap and sells them off for much more money. I mean, the very fact that they kept Jonas Hector for so long is a miracle, because any other player would have long left to a bigger club. Jonas Hector actually went down with them when they got relegated, and he took them back up. But Dortmund deserves to be smacked. Marco Reus is out. Giovanni Reina is out again, probably for another week or so. Jude Bellingham's all by himself when it comes to anybody creative on the squad. You don't know what kind of game you're going to get out of Julian Brandt. He's all over the place. Like, he'll have a golazo, and then all of a sudden he'll have a brain fart.
Rob, I just want to interject really quickly, because I know you've mentioned Brandt in the past. What exactly is his position? Or best position? Because I can't figure this guy out for the life of me.
That's really,
and is he an 8? Is he a winger?
He's played as a winger. He's not really a central, but he's a winger that will cut inside, almost like what we call like a half-space Burching, for example.
Mm-hmm.
For all the Scuffians out there who listen. But that's it, and he played that position at Leverkusen. And you thought like he was going to be something. You thought like, when he went from Leverkusen to Dortmund, you thought that was the next step up. He was going to take his game further, and he has done a little bit better. But like, all the promises he showed back in the Leverkusen days is gone. Like, it's, he's just super inconsistent. We don't know what you're going to get out of him. He'll disappear in games. And I don't know if it's simply because he doesn't have a fullback with him to like really, attack the opposing fullback or whatnot. But with him, it's like, I don't know if it's like he's just surrounded by mediocrity or he contributes to it. And it's a shame because, for a while, like, especially in 2018 when he made a World Cup roster, I felt like he was going to be something. And
because I was vaguely aware of him 2015, 2016, because he was one of those bright stars in the German youth setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. And there was a lot of promise for him when he left Leverkusen. Like I said earlier, like, you thought like he was going to do the move to Dortmund, and then move on, get further up, and do something, great, or make a squad in the Premier League, maybe a top 6 squad. And it just hasn't happened. You thought like when it was a big get when they got him, because Dortmund were a team that didn't get promising stars. They sort of made stars from further up. But Brent was a budding star to begin with, and he sort of just crumbled a little bit. And a lot of it is like the luster is gone from a promising career. And so then, and obviously there's no, Anthony Modeste coming from Cologne to Dortmund. It's like, yeah, it's a good move. You had to make the move because Sebastian Haller is out for a while. But he's he's sort of like a straight poacher. He'll score the goal if you put the ball at his feet, like 5 yards away from the box, from the goal. That's it. You know, he doesn't really do the hold up play well for a team that's surrounded by talent. And he's not like a number 9 that could do it all, like a center forward. And so they're just a mishmash. You know, the only good thing about it is you got Nicholas who's playing again, and you got Nico Schlotterbeck, who's a really good player, who is on the trajectory to become a big player in the center back position. But that's really it. And I think even the goalkeeper is out for Dortmund. So honestly, Dortmund will probably be smacked here, rightfully so. And once again, you know, Bayern had given all these other teams a chance to win the league, and nobody took a full advantage of it. And all of a sudden, Bayern are coming roaring back. And you know what? By next week, they'll probably be number 1 again.
We are literally about 6 or 7 weeks in the season. The extent to which they gave other teams to win the league, I think you're overstating that.
Well, I mean, look at like Leipzig, for example. Like Leipzig struggled mightily in the beginning. Even a Gladbach has struggled mightily, except for when they play Bayern, of course. You know, when they play Bayern, it's like super young summer. But like, you know, when Bayern were having this luck, you know, and dropping points, it was in the other big clubs were losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. And finally, like this weekend, Leipzig beat Bochum, and Cuckoo finally woke up. You know, maybe it was that medical at Chelsea that finally got him going again. That rumor medical.
Apparently that happened in August. But Matt, I'm hoping that I can get Stead back momentarily so that we can talk a little bit about this Liverpool Arsenal game. There's Stead. Stead. Liverpool Arsenal. For my money, that's probably the game of the weekend in the Premier League.
Yeah, I really wish Liverpool would have won that game against Brighton, because you know
both, man.
Yeah, but you know, I Arsenal playing a club team, actually any Big 16, especially after a loss, has never ever been good. And look, say what you want about what I was saying about Manchester United, I was right. And I still, while I applaud the growth that the squad has shown, I don't think you've seen a squad with this type of bounce back in this short amount of time that you've seen with Arsenal. It's quite impressive. But Arsenal is still not at a point where I feel like they can get consistent points from other Big 6 teams. They're just, I don't have the faith that they're there yet. Liverpool's in a slump right now. How many times have we seen over the past 5 years that teams who are struggling seem to use the Arsenal game to get back on track? We've seen it time and time again. It's something about the teams I support, because that's very much true with the Washington football team for the last 30 years. If you are terrible and you are in a slump and you need a win, play Washington and you will get a win no matter how well that squad is playing. So that makes me a bit nervous. Now, I do think this is the game of the weekend, though, because, though, as I've also said from the beginning of this particular Premier League season, this is a different Arsenal team. This is a different squad. They made mistakes against Manchester United. They've acknowledged the mistakes they made against Manchester United, and they didn't make those, as Mike said earlier in the show, they didn't make those mistakes again against Spurs. Liverpool is a team that needs a big win, and they need it in the worst way. So what I see is this could possibly be the time where Arsenal maybe relinquishes being top of the table. I potentially see a draw at this game. But and with the way City's playing, that may be the last time any other team other than City's top of the table. But this is going to be a very, very challenging game for Arsenal, especially considering this game is at home and the pressure's on. I think this is probably the first time where I really feel like there's pressure on Arsenal to perform against an actual quality side. And you look how the Big Six is shaping up now. Everyone's basically where they're supposed to be as far as the top six are concerned, except for Chelsea, Mike's favorite team of Brighton. They're still hanging around in fourth place, which is weird. But you're seeing everybody's kind of creeping back up. Liverpool haven't necessarily been winning, but they haven't lost. They haven't dropped. They haven't lost point. They haven't lost in the last 4 games. So you could see the glue finally starting to harden. Liverpool's getting healthier again. And the only hope is that the fact that all the Big Six teams have 13 games between now and the start of the World Cup, it's maybe a fatigue thing. So at least, maybe the teams will be a bit fresher. Arsenal can probably maybe sneak out a 3 points, but I'm not holding my breath for it. But go ahead, Matt. I know that was a long spots, but
no, in some ways, your Arsenal angst, your narrative is very similar to mine because I think it's like a 2-2, 3-3 draw. There's going to be goals.
Oh, there's going to be goals. Absolutely.
Whenever we play you, there are goals. I don't know if it's necessarily us being in a slump, and this sort of goes back to the formation change, changing personnel over the course of the summer.
Yeah, it's true.
We're in the middle, a little bit of a identity crisis.
Yeah. Maybe slump wasn't the right word. I agree with you there.
I think we're trying to figure out what this squad really is.
Yeah.
And I think I trust Klopp enough where by the end of the season, I think it's going to be okay. If this was in April and May and we had strung some wins together, I'd be like, oh, this is Arsenal. We beat them. This is what happens. But you're right. This is a different Arsenal team. We have not looked good away from Anfield, just period. And I think, especially with the way our defense has struggled, you guys have the tools to, give us some problems. This smells of 2-2, 3-3 to me.
Yeah. Plus, both of us have goalkeepers that, I'll say Ramsdale. Jeez, brain fart. Ramsdale is erratic, to say the least. He's erratic. He plays the way Arteta wants to as far as being able to play the ball at his feet, but he does make the error. He does. And while Alisson is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, he has his days. He has his days
for 1 or 2 brain farts. And even if he's at, peak top shape, our defense is good for a brain fart a match now. Like everyone, Dejan Lovren is long gone, but this season, one guy is the designated Dejan Lovren. It could be Virgil one week, it could be Matip, it could be, I don't even know if Robbo's going to play. It's probably going to be Simicast again at left back, and I don't know. Judging by what he did today, that could be a good thing. Judging what he did against Brighton, that could be a terrible thing. So, I need to see more and more consistency from us. But at the same time, I think there's going to be goals in this one. I'm saying 2-2, 3-3.
I agree. I will be shocked if this does not turn into something like that. That is the game of the weekend. But the funny thing is, I'm gonna do a little shift here because the one team that seems to not get a lot of press other than the usual transfer press is Chelsea. We haven't been talking about Chelsea very much, and if you look, Chelsea's creeped back up the table. And
instead, in fairness, for the last 2 years I've done this show, we talk about Chelsea like a minute a week.
That's because you're so much better at talking about lower league football. And that's not true. That is not true. Because when Chelsea won Champions League, we talked about them a whole lot on that run.
Okay, fair enough.
But just saying. But go ahead, Chelsea, Mike. Give us what's been going on, because it seems like Chelsea wants to scare everybody into thinking that they're going to drop some points and they're able to come back and win.
Yeah, the Conor Gallagher goal this weekend was stunning. And I've got to say, it sort of gave me a little bit of faith in Graham Potter, because he brought him on, he brought Pulisic on, he seemed to get them in the right spot to score a goal to win the game. So yeah, it was a good win. It was a win they should have had. But I think for Chelsea, their Premier League schedule upcoming is kind of light. They've got Wolves this weekend, but they have two absolutely critical matches against Milan in the Champions League, and they need 4 points minimum, 6. So that's the big upcoming thing. Chelsea, they have the talent. We talk about them during the transfer window because they're always bringing in $1 billion worth of players every year, and eventually they're going to grind you down and beat you 2-1 if you're a team that's below the top 6 in the table. They've been pretty consistent about that for the last 4 years, and that's why they've been returning to the Champions League over and over again. You hope that with Graham Potter there, they start to excel now and sort of take another step. I mean, you see just Erling Haaland, and it almost feels like all hope is lost for every other team.
Yeah.
But hope springs eternal with me. We're early in the season. Liverpool, just look at City last year, right? City started out slow. Everybody was talking about, does Pep not care anymore? And then they came through trucking and just, went on to the league title. That's the hope for Chelsea this year. We'll see.
All right, Matt, give us the haps in Eastern Europe that we need to be paying attention to.
There's 3 things I have down in my notes. One being actually more Eastern Europe adjacent, but it's still important. Ukrainian Premier League, it's back after the international break, and I'm going to freely put my hand up and say I was wrong. I said it was going to be a 2-horse race, Shakhtar Dynamo. Shakhtar's one of those horses, but give Chelsea Mike's Dnipro 1 a lot of credit. I thought they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this good. And I was trepidatious about Dynamo coming into the season. I am more trepidatious now because I don't understand how we won the league 2 years ago, because at the end of the day, our manager is an 80-year-old Romanian man, and we play and our tactics are those of an 80-year-old Romanian man. So there might have to be changes before things get better. Second point, there was a ghost friendly played during the international break, and this is pathetic. A team called Russia, and I'm not even going to give them that much credit because all of the foreign-based players said, no, we're not showing up. And a lot of the domestic-based players that would be in the team also refused call-ups. They played Kyrgyzstan. Apparently they won. I didn't watch a minute of it. I don't care. Don't want to watch dictator football. But the fact that the only thing that the team of Putin Incorporated can manage is a weird friendly played in the Central Asian steppe against another authoritarian regime, and with kits that look like they were made by some rando guy at a t-shirt shop in Moscow, speaks volumes. I said it when all this started. I'll say it again. One of the other casualties of this conflict is Russian football. Vladimir Putin has single-handedly taken something that was growing, particularly after the World Cup, and flushed it down the damn toilet. And this is what you get. On a much lighter note, or much better note, what did I tell you about my Georgian boy at Napoli, man?
I was gonna ask about the guy called Sheila.
Sheila, man like
And-
Sheila.
Man like Sheila.
Man like Sheila.
Napoli running out 6-1 winners today. A man like Sheila coming up with, what was it, 2 or 3, Matt?
2 goals, 2 assists. I think when all said and done, he's going to have 20 goals, 20 assists in all comps. I was aware of this guy. He was one of the many, because remember for years, whenever a country had a really good player and was young and was like fill in the blank Messi, and then that got like stupid because none of these guys were any good, or 2/3 of them weren't any good. He was dubbed the Georgian Messi. So I've been aware of him for about 5 years. And yeah, I heard, okay, he's ripping up the Georgian league, but okay, that's the Georgian league. He debuted for Lokomotiv Moscow about 4 years ago. And I was like, wow, this 18-year-old in one season, he shouldn't be playing in this league. He should go someplace else. This game was still a little bit raw, but you could see the talent. He was lucky pre-invasion and pre-disaster, RPL disaster, to have gone to Rubin Kazan, where he was mentored by Leonid Slutsky, one of the best managers and one of the genuinely nice dudes in post-Soviet football. And, the move to Napoli went really under the radar because I think most people in the West never heard of him or just looked at his name and was like, what is this? Right? This sea of consonants. I'm going to say this right now. In 2 years' time, we're going to be talking about him moving someplace else, either to England, maybe to Bayern. This kid, and this is, I know this is maybe an extreme statement. For my money, he is the most exciting. I've not been excited about a player from the post-Soviet space like this since early Mkhitaryan, like Shakhtar, first wave Dortmund Mkhitaryan. I think he's that good.
I mean, even Mkhitaryan, when he got to Dortmund, took a year or two to bet himself, but once he did, we saw what he was capable of. We saw fits and starts of it at Manchester United before he moved to Inter Milan, and he was a key part of Inter Milan beating Bayern or Barcelona today.
Yeah,
there's still a little bit left in there for him.
I think the injuries are what killed him, and the difference between him and men like Sheila. I always said Mkhitaryan should have left Ukraine about 2 years earlier. And, that's been the big issue, or one of my big issues with a lot of these younger, players from Eastern Europe is they move west just slightly too late. Right, because he didn't get to Dortmund until he was like well into his 20s.
Yeah, he was like 25 when he got to Dortmund. This Georgian kid's literally he could only drink legally in this country sometime last year. Like, he's just scratching his potential. And I mean, I have a lot of Napoli love because of the residual Maradona effect, and my family's from Southern Italy, so you have to root for something. But yeah, I've been saying this in the chat for weeks. Watch this kid. He's fun. He's really fun. And he helped Georgia, the national team, get promoted to Nations League B, whatever that might mean. And I guess that's cool because they'll be playing against England next year.
Yeah, and we said this in the Ukraine episode that Soviet football when it was at its best was kind of a mini Champions League, and Dynamo Tbilisi was the only, well, at least in the Soviet era, Soviet team to win any kind of European silverware. They won the Cup Winners' Cup, and if you know anything about Soviet football, they were christened the Uruguayans of the Caucasus. Because they played this really fun, very technically astute brand of football. So it's good to see positive things happening with Georgian football. Hachapuri for everybody.
As far as, is there anything that we should be on the lookout for this weekend in European football?
Not in the UPL per se, but because the match calendar is going to be crowded as always. Some of the big derbies are coming up, including, I think it's either next week or maybe the week after. It's Dnipro Medalist, and those two teams have a history. I know since 2014, the hooligan firms have pieced it up, but there's bad blood there. There's some bad blood there. So there should be some good things coming up. And the Krakow Derby is going to be coming up, not in the Polish First League because one team went down, but in the Cup next week. So that's always exciting.
Pierogies for everybody.
Yes.
Go Visa.
All right, Mike, and to a certain extent, Bayern Rob, when I get him back on. Before we get into all things lower league, Mike, I do want to touch on this report that came out about the NWSL this week and the abuses suffered by U.S. women in the NWSL. So, report comes out, systematic abuses, harassment, sexual abuse by multiple coaches, most of which, and I think this is key to be known, most of which have been reported to authorities and to the media, and little to no steps were taken by NWSL to ameliorate this prior to this coming out. That NWSL and their players, some of the high profile ones, were able to make this public, to shine light on it. I appreciate that. The quote that I love best from one of the players was, this is a system you have, then burn it down completely. Because that's what needs to be done. That being said, there's a really interesting friendly going on, Mike, on Friday. USA, England, in Wembley. What is it, 88,000 to 100? The seat in Wembley. Tickets sold out in 5 minutes. This is going to be the best. So I want to get yours, and Rob, I know you are a soccer daughter dad. Get y'all's thoughts on this NWSL thing, and then your thoughts on this friendly on Friday. Mike, you lead it off.
Well, I don't know. It's hard for me because I think it's not just an NWSL problem, right? It's a women's sports problem that we have here in the United States. And frankly, something needs to be done about it. I mean, you've seen it with our gymnastics program, which again has been very successful throughout time, but there's been systematic abuses, cover-ups, stuff that goes to the highest level. then we see it here again. And it's not just gymnastics, not just the high profile. We're seeing it in other places too. But it's a thing that we as a country need to stop. And I think that why the abuses are so bad in women's sports are because there aren't as many eyes on it, right? It's not as popular amongst the masses as men's sports. So there aren't as many reporters covering it, and there aren't as many resources. A lot of the women's resources are just whatever the general public could use, as opposed to any kind of systematic protection from a league standpoint to keep this from happening. It's shocking all the time when we see this. It's shocking that it's shocking that these people get fired and then they go and they get another job. That's really the worst part of it. There's not even communication between club and federation. I think, yes, I don't want to say burn it down. I think the NWSL is building a thing. But the thing that we're building, and when we talk about the football, we're in jeopardy of losing the women's game here. We could have built the professional league that everyone in the world comes to. And, there's the Women's Champions League in Europe. There was all kind of buzz around the English game when they won the Euros this year. It's a big step back for American women's soccer. And I think that if we don't have a professional league, first of all, where people feel safe, we're going to lose all our talent. But secondly, that isn't of the highest quality in the world, we're going to start to fall behind from a football perspective. So the report is shocking. Everything's condemnable about it. But we as a country need to do more for our female athletes.
Rob, I know you to be a girl dad and a big supporter of women's football. I want to give you an opportunity to say your piece on this.
It's really telling when I'm a member of Cloud9, which is a supporters group for Gotham FC. And it's really telling when the firing of our manager was for cause and it was celebrated. Like Scott Parkinson, the previous coach of Gotham FC, who came in midway last season, got fired midway this season for poor performance. The team finished in last place this season. And we were all glad that it wasn't because of something he did to like a player or likewise. He just got fired for cause and it was celebrated. And that is sad. Like the first thing I think about when a manager gets fired or a coach gets fired in the NWSL is, what did he or she do? What abuse did he do to a player or to an employee? And it's pathetic. Why do I need to think that way? It's horrific. These coaches who have abused players, had made players uncomfortable, have assaulted players, have groomed players and preyed on players. It's sad that they just been passed around, almost like priests who abuse children in the Catholic Church, and it's just been kept quiet. And people weren't heard.
Rob, I'm gonna cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
The coach of Portland, who was then allowed to go to, and I know his name, I will not give it on the air simply because I do not want to acknowledge him as a man. as a person because what you did does not warrant that. You're not a human being. You are a predator. If this was not women's soccer, if this was the NFL, if this was the NBA, if this was another sport, that would be the lead story on everything. That individual was a sexual predator. He demonstrated it on multiple occasions and was allowed to have a high profile jobs. And you cannot sit and say to me that they didn't say anything. They said something to those women, said something to everybody and anybody who would listen. And nobody cared. What are we doing to protect them?
You know, the thing, this won't change until we get new ownership. And there's some, like, for example, the group that does Angel City, who are mostly women, is powerful women, including Serena Williams, Mia Hamm, and you know, the league needs better owners to actually care about the sport and don't just use it as another line item in their asset portfolio.
But the Portland Stearns owner is sitting there saying, like, oh, I'm gonna step away until the next investigation is clear.
Yeah, it's crap. You know, he needs to step away from ownership. Like, you know, like
if this is how you're going to run a team, you do not deserve to have one.
I know. And owners have been taken. I mean, teams have been taken away from owners in the NWSL for much less. Why Mayor Paulson is still an owner in the NWSL and even in MLS? He messed up in MLS as well with the Andy Polo situation with the Timbers. So like it's really tough to swallow. And you know, like, the one thing I'm proud of, at least for Gotham, I know, like, we are last place. We are awful this year, but the most important thing, and I've said it to all my friends, has been that the players and the staff feel comfortable being an employee at Gotham, whether you're a player or you're a freelance photographer. That, you know, your safety and your comfortability is the most important. The results will come. That's fine. But we need, the hierarchy needs to start with, we need to treat people with respect. We need to treat people as employees and give, you know, and give players, you know, the room to grow and be better players and better people. And what happens is, you know, what, you know, Mayor Paulson and other owners, especially the owner of the Courage, based on who they sign and who's on their roster, they don't care about that. I don't know, they're clueless, they're tone deaf, but you know, those people don't support women's football. And you know, we need better owners, we need better people in front offices, and we need to bring more light to these issues. And I'm so glad that, like, publication like The Athletic give, you know, women's football a big voice and have quality writers on their staff so they can elevate these stories and publish these stories, like, you know, what we've seen in the NWSL, what we've seen with the former coach of the Thorns and the former coach of the Courage, what we've seen with the former coach of Racing Louisville, and what we've seen with, you know, front office staff and GMs over former GMs at Gotham and Sky Blue. So, but we need all that, and we as fans, as football fans, we need to promote those voices, and hopefully, like Mike was saying, that more eyes will be on it, and then more change can come. So, you know, we as fans and we as supporters group have a voice, especially because, you know, it's not the biggest game, so our voice, you know, holds a little bit more majority. You know, we have an impact because we are a big part of the attendance, we are a big part of the dollars. And so I hope that the sponsors like Alaska Airlines do make a stand when it comes to whether they continue sponsoring the Thorns and the Timbers and other sponsors as well. We'll see. But, you know, it's disappointing. And look, and it's sad because this report comes out and like we had a great last week of the season in the NWSL. The playoffs are about to start. There's quality football to be played. Sophia Smith is on a roll, playing for Thorns. The final's going to be played at Audi Field, you know, and instead of talking about the playoffs and these great stars and talking about USA playing England, we're talking about this report, which takes away from the football that we all love, but it needs to be brought to our attention. So hopefully one day we don't get these stories. We just talk about the game.
I'm going to say this, and I hope that anybody who's listening understands. Yes, I understand this is the tail end of my show, and I'm bringing it up. But I'm bringing it up with two people who I trust to talk about it. Number one, let me apologize. I have a platform, and I did not use it. I could have, because I was aware and I read those reports, I could have brought it up sooner. I did not. I will own that. I was wrong. We should have brought this up sooner. It was out there. I'm sorry. That was completely on me. That was an editorial decision. I did not pay as much attention as I should have. And I, as the host and the person who does content for this show, should have done better. I know we are not the most listened to podcast on the face of the planet, but I have the platform that I have, and I did not do what I should have. I will own that. I am sorry. I do not know how to apologize any way other than that. I've never cursed on my show, and I'm about to. What happened is complete and utter bullshit. No woman, no girl should ever be subject to what was allowed to go on in the NWSL, which goes back to what I originally said. I had the opportunity to go and bring attention to it, and I did not. But that should not be allowed to happen, and be allowed to happen without impunity and without broadcast. To each and every individual who did what they did, in the words of Jay-Z, you get half a bar. Fuck y'all. That's it. The fact that we are about to go into what should be one of the greatest occasions in all of sports, let alone women's sports. Over 80,000 people are going to come out and watch the World Cup champions and the U.S. women's national team play against the English women's team, winners of the last Euros. God, this is going to be a great environment.
They're gonna fill up Wembley for a
It's already
friendly.
full.
For a
It's already
friendly.
full.
For
It's already full.
it's not even a competitive, it's a friendly, and that's how big
It's
this
a-
game is. They want
It's
to
a
see other.
friend, Rob. It's sold out in
I
5 minutes.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. They
5 minutes.
they all want to see Alex Morgan do the tea celebration again.
They want to see.
That is not what they want to see. They want to see Beth Mead score like she has been scoring in the Euro and in the WSL this year. They want to
But you
see
know
Beth
what?
Mead lay 3 on us.
But you know what? That's a conversation that we should be having. Is Alex Morgan gonna score 2 is Beth Mead going to score 3? Can the English women, who are one of the best in the world right now, stand up against the USA women, who have been the best in the world over the course of the last decade? This is what we should be talking about. This friendly is what it should be. And that they had to sit and answer questions about some predator who abused their power. Again, I haven't cursed on my show except for these 3 times. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah, it's sad because there's like a bunch of like the captain, Becky Sauerbraun, plays on Thorns. Crystal Dunn, who just came back from maternity leave,
and they're saying,
Yeah.
they're saying we're not okay.
Yeah, no, they're not. And like, you know, the thing that the problem with women's football globally, it's just not treated in an equitable way. Like, for example, like, you know, just across the pond in the Frauenbundesliga, the Frauenbundesliga champions in Wolfsburg, they have a leaky bus. Like, and there's no sign of it being fixed. And I'm like, they're the champions of the league. They're not just some like women's team only. They're part of the conglomerate that is Volkswagen. You know, like, fix the freaking bus, for crying out loud. Why did they have to be at a leaky bus? Like, it's just like simple things like that drive you nuts. I'm like, if this was the men's 3rd division Germany, that would never happen. Like, come on.
The only thing that I have left to say is, again, I should have done better. We, as a collective unit, will do better in the future. And I'm going to leave it with that. Gentlemen, I know this is the Too Many Soccer Guys show, and we advertise as being too many guys, right? And that's fun. We are a bunch of guys that like soccer. It does not preclude us from recognizing what goes on in the women's game. On behalf of all of us, I sincerely apologize. We will do better in the future. We should have, because we had the opportunity, have done better. And for that, I'm supremely sorry. For the women who had to endure that, I apologize. We should have done better. We will do better about bringing attention to that. For the girls in the future who listen to this show, you have an opportunity, and we will do better about broadcasting that. There's a fantastic friendly on Friday. We're talking about it. We are amped up, and please believe next week when we come back, we will talk about the U.S. women versus England, because that is the game of the weekend.
2 weekends in a row, women's matches have been the best in the world.
Yes, they are.
You know, it's crazy. So next month in November, the USA play the other finalists from the Euros, Germany. It's not like the US is getting primed for the World Cup.
No, and we need to make sure that we bring attention to that.
Yeah.
To those people, the utmost of my middle finger to you. I don't know how else to tell you to sit on it and rotate. You suck. For Yves the bartender, for Coach Matt, for Chelsea Mike, for Bayern Rob, and for producer Stead, I'm Mike. We did our best this week. We'll try and do better next week.
Professor Matt, not Coach
Professor Matt.
Professor
No, I'm sorry. I said Coach Matt. I meant Professor Matt.
He's the
Coach Matt
professor.
was supposed to be here taking his L, but he decided not to.
And I forgot Larry the insurance guy, who was also in. But for the cast of the Too Many Guys Soccer show, I'm Mike. We did all right this week. We'll do better next.